that we know everything there is to know in this unit, and I gave you this sheet, this always is going to tell you the direction to go. This is what you always are thinking about. So first thing I do is I say, do I have one or two variables? Okay, well if I notice I have one variable, I can isolate. Okay, so that means get everything away with algebra. If I have two variables, my instinct is I first have to get a 0. Have to get 0. Then, if you can factor, you need to understand which style do you have. Okay, so you go through your 4 styles. Is it GCF, simple trinomial, complex, or difference of squares? If you can't factor, this is the formula that always works. Okay, given if you have an A, B, C, sometimes one of them might be a 0, and that's okay too, right? Okay, so keep that in mind while you do all of these questions. Okay, number 1. Where are you with that chart that I just explained? One variable or the two variable side? One variable, so isolate. That's the strategy. Okay, what are you going to do mathematically first? We ought to move one thing at a time. The 2, the 3, or the 1 part? Which one would you like to do first? The 1, so I'm going to add 1. Okay, I'm going to times by 3. And then I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, what is the answer here? Be careful. It could be easy to lose a half of a point on your answer. Plus or minus 3. Okay, because when you square root it, it's 3, but you have to think what could square? Okay, if I ever had a question where you ended up with something like this, instead of this 9, what if I ended up with something like that? How would you answer a question? So if I had b equals plus or minus, what would you do? Can 7 square root nicely? So you just leave it. Yeah. Okay, 9 was a nice square root, but if 7 is not, just leave it. Okay, number 2. We have 2 variables. Okay, which one of those, if I looked like I wanted to factor it, it would be, which one of the 4 styles? Simple trinomial, did you pick? Okay, so simple trinomial, y and y multiplies to 12. You have to add it with a negative 7. We got 2 things that will do that. 3 times 4. Negative, negative creates a positive 12 and a negative 7, right? Multiplies 2, adds 2. So y equals 3, y equals 4. Okay, check. Did you put it equals 0 on the end of this? Because you will lose communication points. Okay? If you ever wrote me this, you would lose communication points because now you're creating a coordinate in the math up somewhere else. So don't do that either, right? Okay, question 3. There's actually 2 methods you could do here. You could do a difference of squares if you wanted to factor it. That's somebody who picked a difference of squares, and that's good. So negative 10 or positive 10. What else could I have done? Isolate. So I could have added 100. I could have moved the 100 over and then square rooted. See why it's important to put plus minus? Plus minus 10. Okay, number 4. What's the strategy? And it's in the type of factoring out of your 4 choices. GCF. I can take something out. Okay, what do they all have in common? An M. So I get an M squared, a minus 9M, and a plus 14. Okay, this one you're going to have to do another something else. So now I recognize just this portion I'm looking at now. Trinomial, and it's simple. So simple trinomial. What should I do with the M in the front though? I should still write it. It's not going to disappear yet. So something, do we have anything multiplies to 14? We got 7 times 2. Oh, and I need them both to be negative, right? So on this one, you actually have 3 answers for M, okay? 3 answers. M could be 7, 2, or what else on that one? 0. Because it's just like, how do I make that multiplier be 0? Well, if M was 0. Okay, number 5. There's, I think, something wrong with it, the way it looks. What's the not so good thing about how it's looking? It equals 26, and I want a 0, right? So I'm going to minus 26. Okay, so I had to do that first. Now I see simple trinomial. C. What multiplies to 26? You have something in mind? 13 times 2? 13 times 2 is 26. Negative, positive. Okay, number 6. How do you want to start this one? The negative is not really fun to factor with when you start with negatives. So I'm going to just times by -1. I'm going to times both sides by -1. That's something you can do in math. So x squared is now positive. Then that's positive. Then that's negative. And the lucky thing is 0 is still 0, right? So I changed all the signs. So now it's a simple trinomial. Multiplies to 9. 9 times 1 is the one that's going to get me an 8. Okay, number 7. I'm going to start with factoring. I can see that already. or I'm going to try anyway. What style of factoring would you like to start with? Which one of those styles? You have 4 options there, right? The simple or the complex trinomial. Okay, that you could do, but there's actually something that would be more helpful. GCF. Complex trinomial will get you there. It'll just be more complicated. If I can ever GCF, I'm going to do it because it's going to simplify things for me. What is the thing I can divide out of everything? 2. So this is an x squared, 7x, and a 10. So now I can have a simple trinomial with a multiplying to 10. Think of 2 things that multiply to 10. 5 times 2, lots. Okay, on this one, there's 2 answers because I only see an x here and an x here. This one, do you see why this one has 3 answers and this one only has 2 answers, right? This is just a 2, it's not a variable. Okay, so x equals -5 or -2. Okay, number 8. So if you had done the complex one, you would have got there. You probably would have got an answer like a -10/2 or something, and then it would just reduce. Okay, number 8. What do you want to do for this one? It has 2 variables, so we're either factoring or a formula. Okay? If you really like the formula, you could just do the formula. Okay, let's try to factor this one though. Okay, so complex, because it's got a something x squared. I did check and I couldn't take anything out because I knew 17 is not divisible by anything. Okay, 6 times 12, so that's a positive 72. So here's the options for 72. 172, 2 times 36, 3 times 24, 4, is it divisible by 4? 4 times, anybody? How about, is it 18?
Yeah.
6 times 12, because we already had that one. And then 8 times 9, right? Okay, I know that they both have to have the same sign to get positive, and then I need a -17. So guess what? They're both negative. Which one of those sets, both negative, make a -17? Multiplies to positive, adds to -17. Does that work? Okay, now I'm going to go under my first. I could do x times a 6x. I could do 2x times 3x. For the 12, 1, 12, 2, 6, 3, 4. Okay, which group makes 8 and 9? What are you going to partner with what? 2, 3, 3, 4, those partners. So 2 with the 4, that's the 8. And 3, 3 makes the 9. Okay, so my brackets are going to be set up now. So I always put the first in. 2x, 3x. Okay, the outside and the inside are your partnerships. So 2 is with the 4, 3 is with the 3. Make sure your partners are lining up on the O and the I, because that's the FOIL part. The O and the I make the negative 17. Right? This is what I'm doing, right? I'm making the F, I'm combining for the O, I, and I'm making the L, right? That's the components. Okay. This is going to be a fraction. This is also going to be a fraction because it's got a something in front. So this fraction, 3 over 2, opposite, divide. Okay, number 9. Okay, so which style? This has got 2 variables, so I'm going to look through my factorings. Do I have one of those styles? Are they any of them? I think I can do something about a GCF, right? I think I can take something out. What do you want to take out of? I can take a 3 out and an x out. Right? Both are divisible by 3, both are divisible by an x. What happens? I get an x and a minus 6. Okay, if you're like thinking you didn't really do it right, what's the way I can make sure I did it right? Does it multiply to the original, right? Does this multiply? Okay, so here you're actually going to have 2 answers. X is what? Did you write 0? Because it's saying in my head 3 times what is going to have a 0 result? 3 times 0. And positive 6 subtract 6 was the way I could get the 0 there. Okay, number 10. What do you see for your instincts here? The game plan. One variable I'm going to isolate. So I'm going to move that away. So negative 16. And then I'm going to divide by 4. And then I'm going to square root. And then what? It doesn't. Can you square root a negative 4? No. So what do you actually write as a physical word here? No solution. So don't write me error. You have to write, there's no solution. B is not possible. Like, you can't have anything there. Okay? 11, what's the game plan? There's one variable again. So isolate stuff. Okay. I think I would like to group together this variable and this variable. So my thinking is I always like to get rid of the smaller one. So I'm going to minus 2x squared. So this stuff would be like grade 9, how you moved stuff across. Okay, so that becomes 3x squared plus 7 minus 7 is that 48? Divide by 3. Should be 16, I think. Yep. Okay, now I would square root. So x equals plus or minus 4, right? Okay, number 12. You could isolate here, that's fine. But I think I would like to do it with factoring. Okay, it's kind of like how number 3 was. It's the same idea as number 3. You could have isolated or it's a difference of squares. Okay, so I want to go 2 brackets. So I'm going to do the difference of squares. So instead of a y, do you understand I need a y squared? And what is our square root there? 25? So plus 25 minus 25. Okay, what do I know about this situation here? Is there going to be a solution to this? There's not, because this would have to be a negative 25 in order to make this 0. Could I possibly square something? Be negative 25. No. So this is not going to break down. What can I do with this bracket though? That's a difference of squares. So that one can break down. So I have 2 answers. Okay, so this one I'm just leaving there because it just doesn't break down. Okay, okay, can I do number 15? I'm going to jump to number 15. What is it that I don't like there? I kind of just don't like something in that one. Do we like working with fractions? Probably not. So I'm going to times everything by 2. Okay, so 2x squared. What happens to 7 halves when you times it by 2? Just 7. There's a cancel. Minus 4. Okay, so now I've created a complex, right? So complex, we start slow. So I have a negative 8. In the middle, I need a 7. One of them is negative, one is positive. Do you know which one is which? So I need a plus 7. Okay, so there's my multiply to negative 8, add to positive 7. Okay, so here are the options for first, the options for last. In my groups, I need to make a 1 with it and an 8. So do you see your partnerships? A 1 and an 8. Okay, and then you go to your brackets, first times first. Outside, inside, lining up your partners together. So 1x was with the 1, 2x was with the 4. Okay, we needed a plus 8 and a minus 1. So this answer is just normal, and this answer should be a fraction, right? Opposite, divide. Okay. Quadratic formula. Okay, so you have it on your paper here. Oh, before I even do that, there's something wrong. I don't like this. 7 instead of 0. So I'm going to need to move that. I can't just go. I got to have it equal to 0 before I do it, right? Same thing with factoring and the formula. They both don't work unless you have a 0. Okay. So there's our A, there's our B, and there's our C, right? Okay, here's the formula. Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared. So 9 minus 4 bracket 2 bracket negative 7 all over 2 bracket 2. Okay, so for me, I'm going to type into my calculator just that. That's what I'm typing in. So 9 subtract 4 times 2 times negative 7. Is root 65. And then divide by 4. Okay, what would be my problem here right now? I have a problem with how I wrote it. I need to put this in brackets to make sure my calculator is doing all of that divided by 4. Okay, so there's the 2 typings. So remember, the first time you would put a plus the root, and then on the second time you subtract with the root. Nope. 1.27. Anybody matches? Okay, this one said I had to support my answer with a sketch. So what do these answers mean in a visual? Okay, so what is this? If I'm graphing this, what is it? It's a parabola. Does it open up or down? It opens up, right? That's what I know. Okay, what are these on the graph? X-intercepts. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Just going to draw a little bit of a that. So 1.27 and negative 2.77. just a simple sketch, just what are these? So the two x-intercepts and the idea that it's an upward parabola. Okay, number 17. How many solutions are there going to be? Okay, so this one I just want to know how many. So all I'm doing is the b squared minus 4ac. Just that part. Okay, so b squared, 9, minus 4 times 5 times 1. So I got a negative 11 on that. So in the formula, how many answers would this make? Remember that this is the part where we have to go square root it. So what happens if I'm square rooting a negative 11? No answer, right? No solution. Okay, you can't square root the negative. It's not going to work. If I ever asked you to understand visually what is that, right? This is just what's going on. It's a parabola that's going to never, ever, ever hit the x-axis. Okay, same thing. B squared, so 81, minus 4, 2, negative 5. Okay, I got 121, that looks okay. So in the formula, this part would have been a plus minus root 121. Well, that will create two solutions, right? So visually, that's kind of what the idea is. There'll be two x-intercepts. And the last one, so b squared is plus 36. Doesn't matter, positive or negative, that would be positive. Minus 4, negative 3, negative 3. So in the formula, if I'm doing this in the formula, does it matter if I add the square root of 0 or subtract the square root of 0? That's kind of irrelevant, which will give me one solution, right? So visually, it's a parabola. This would be the idea of something that would have a one solution. I guess this one should have been upside down because it was a negative slope, but okay, it only touches once. Okay, number 18. I'm just going to get you to scratch the 3 off. I'm going to change the question just because, remember I said we're going to skip the harder ones. So we'll just do the ones that have a 1x squared. Okay, so this is, don't just do that, but just, this is our new question. I'm just making a new one. Okay, so the first step is to move the number. Get that number out of there. Next, you're going to make your own trinomial. You got to make your own trinomial. Okay, you remember what you're doing in your head? You're dividing by 2 and squaring. You have something? Plus 9? Okay, that's something you created, right? So then it threw off the balance, so you have to add 9. Can you take this trinomial and write it as a something squared? It's a perfect square now. So x plus 3, right, equals 19. Okay, so now at this stage we're going to try to get x alone. So the first thing I have to do is square root, because I have to get that square off of that. And I can't just minus 3 because this is a unit squared, so you can't separate the unit stuff. So x plus 3. What's important for the root? Plus minus, because right? 19 doesn't square root, so I leave it. So x equals plus minus root 19 minus 3. Okay, I want you to leave it like that, and on your test I said leave in radical form, so that's good. But I also might say, can you change it to a decimal to check your answer? So can you figure out what those there's 2 answers, can you figure out what they'll be in a decimal? So you're going to be doing a root 19 minus 3, and then a negative root 19 minus 3. So can you practice that? Because I did put that on your test. Put it in radical form, but then can you check your answer?